Chapter 331, 203, Vice President? Instant kill. The whole audience was dumbfounded. Part 2. Lu Juanyu retorted defiantly, short-sighted, utterly foolish. Ma Zhenhe, are you talking about yourself? Yuan Dongji cast a glance at the two men and shook his head helplessly. One nearly 100 years old, the other several decades old, yet both enjoyed bickering like children. All those years lived in vain. Meanwhile, on the martial stage, Tan Wanyi looked at Lin Zikan with a mocking smile, her eyes slightly contemptuous. King of newcomers, I'll give you the chance to make the first move so you don't end up like your girlfriend, defeated before you can even strike. That would be too disappointing. Okay. Lin Zikan responded without any hint of emotion in his voice. The moment the words fell, his body suddenly transformed into an afterimage. At a speed invisible to the naked eye, he charged fiercely towards Tan Wanyi. At the same moment, Tan Wanyi, who had appeared calm, suddenly changed her facial expression. She immediately exerted force under her feet. The entire person sprang up like a flea, soaring several meters into the air. What's going on? What was that intense oppression that made it hard to breathe just now? And, why do I have a feeling that I just escaped death? Tan Wanyi, flapping her wings, hovered above the martial stage, her face still shocked as she looked down at Lin Zikan. The moment Lin Zikan charged over, her instinct for sensing danger went wild, forcing her to disregard her image and instinctively choose to take to the sky to evade. She always felt that being a moment slower might have resulted in her death on the martial stage. How can the vice president not keep her word? She said she'd let Lin Zikan make the first move, so why did she run as soon as he moved? Just playing games? No, seriously, you can play games like this? That's just disgusting. There was a burst of discussion from beneath the martial stage. Listening to these voices, Tan Wanyi felt she couldn't hold her face, and her eyebrows involuntarily furrowed slightly. Yet, she didn't descend back to the martial stage out of so-called face-saving. Instead, she continued hovering high in the air, looking down at Lin Zikan from above. King of newcomers, I underestimated you just now. I've changed my decision now. I'll give it my all, as the greatest respect for your strength. After saving some face with these words and finding a good excuse for her next move, Tan Wanyi did not hesitate, relying on her ability to fly and her absolute control of the airspace. She spread her sky-obscuring wings and shot a large number of feathers downward at Lin Zikan. Whiz! 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 Along with a series of piercing sounds, innumerable sharp feathers, like arrows, shot rapidly towards Lin Zikan. Their target was his heart. To give him a thorough heart piercing. Facing the feathers blasting towards him with the momentum of blotting out the sky, Lin Zikan neither dodged nor avoided. He did not move even a centimeter. Just when everyone thought he would be pierced through by dozens, if not hundreds of feathers like Shen Qinghan just was. Suddenly, a strange thing happened. The feathers shooting towards him stopped abruptly at about a fist's distance from his chest, as if suddenly frozen in mid-air, suspended silently with no movement. The next second, an even stranger scene unfolded. All the seemingly frozen feathers suddenly turned around at the same time, directly targeting Tan Wanyi above the martial stage. Then, under the incredulous gazes of the onlookers, whiz! 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 All the feathers, transforming into streaks of white light barely visible to the naked eye, rapidly shot towards Tan Wanyi in the sky above the martial stage. Tan Wanyi's face changed dramatically, and as soon as she realized what was happening, she immediately flapped her wings to flee. However, the speed of the feather shooting was too fast. Tan Wanyi had just started to flap her wings when the next moment, she was pierced by countless feathers shooting up from below. Under the powerful impact of the feathers, Tan Wanyi was sent flying vertically upwards until she finally slammed hard into a central giant screen and stopped. She was pinned motionlessly to the large screen. At that moment, the entire gymnasium fell into dead silence. It was almost so quiet you could hear a pin drop. It was as if the earth had stopped rotating. About 2 seconds later, the venue suddenly erupted into an unbelievable outcry. What's going on? What in the world just happened? How did those feathers suddenly stop, then abruptly change direction to shoot towards the vice president? That's so eerie. Does Linziken possess some kind of supernatural ability? Spiritual power. I just sensed intense spiritual fluctuations coming from Linziken. He just used spiritual power to control those feathers that the vice president shot at him through telekinesis. Spiritual power. He's just a freshman who's been in school for half a year. How could his spiritual power possibly be strong enough to perform telekinesis, and so skillfully at that? Could it be that the pure-blood human path not only strengthens the physical body but also enhances the spirit? Amidst the enthusiastic speculation of the bystanders, all the school leaders were stunned, deeply shocked by the strength Linziken had displayed. They had thought that the fight between Linziken and the student council vice president would be a fierce battle. They had never imagined it would end so quickly. It was just one round, and the student council vice president, with a biological level as high-level first order, was instantly taken down, which was utterly incredible. President Liu, does that blood tempering technique practiced by those on the pure-blood human path, in addition to strengthening the physical body, also enhance the spirit? The head of the Mechanical Academy asked curiously. Lu Chuanmu shook his head and answered honestly, no, Linziken's strong spiritual power is due to his own unique physique. Another genius with a unique constitution. Meanwhile, the officers of the student council were all staring wide-eyed, their faces full of disbelief, momentarily thinking they were hallucinating. They found it hard to believe that the vice president, second in strength only to the president and the inspector general in the student council, could be instantly defeated by a freshman. Even though this freshman was known as the strongest newcomer in the history of the school, they still found it preposterous. If a freshman could instantly defeat the third strongest in the entire school, what would happen by the time he was a senior? Could he blow up the president himself? President. What exactly is going on with Linziken? The inspector general looked at Zhou Suihong, furrowing his brows as he asked. Zhou Suihong glanced at Tan Wanyi, who was hanging by a thread on the giant screen, then over to Linziken, who hadn't moved a step on the martial stage, and his brows furrowed even tighter than the inspector general's. He had always thought that Linziken's current strength was at most an ordinary 9th order. If Linziken did not switch to the genetic fusion path, he might be stuck at the ordinary 9th order level for his entire 4 years in university, unable to advance further. At best, he could continue refining his body until his graduation and reach Lu Chuanmu's strength, able to defeat a high-level first-order genetic integrator. However, the strength Linziken had just displayed far exceeded his understanding. Without moving an inch throughout, he had instantly taken down Tan Wanyi solely with his powerful spiritual power. If his spiritual power was that strong, wouldn't his chi blood be even stronger? What was Linziken's chi blood strength then? High-level first order? The pinnacle of high-level first order? Or even high-level second order? The more Zhou Suihong thought about it, the more his face filled with doubt, and he was engulfed by a deep sense of powerlessness. Before today, he had always thought that his only rival during his student days was Li Yujin from Kyoto University. But now he realized that the biggest rival of his student days might not be Li Yujin, but Linziken, who was now standing on the martial stage. Linziken, having just passed half of his first year, already had such heaven-defying strength. If given another half a year to develop, wouldn't he, the top student of Shanghai University, also become his defeated subordinate? At that thought, Linziken, having just passed half of his first year, already had such heaven-defying strength. If given another half a year to develop, wouldn't he, the top student of Shanghai University, also become his defeated subordinate? At that thought, P.S. Laying out the bowl, requesting monthly pass and recommendation ticket. Chapter 332, 204. Student Council President? One kick is enough. The Student Council President is on stage. I heard from my brother that the President's biological level has evolved to high-level 3rd order. Just 22 and already at high-level 3rd order, that's insane. I wonder if Linziken can beat him. At high-level 3rd order already, betting their life. Hard to say, Linziken could take out the high-level 1st order Vice President in seconds, beating a high-level 3rd order isn't impossible. As soon as Zhou Suihong jumped onto the martial stage, a buzz of discussion immediately erupted from the crowd. Listening to these voices, as the Student Council President, he felt quite pressured. Challenging Linziken now, it's like a senior bullying a junior. Moreover, it's the greatest senior picking on the smallest freshman. If he couldn't cleanly defeat Linziken right away, his reputation would be ruined, and the authority of the Student Council would plummet. Having such a hard time defeating a freshman. What kind of Student Council President is that? He might as well go home and raise pigs. While Zhou Suihong was worrying about these things inside. Across. Linziken was as calm as still water, without any ripple of emotion. He just casually glanced at Zhou Suihong. Activated his biometric attribute Danger Perception. And peeked at this Student Council President's biological information. The biological pressure was as high as high-level 3rd order. It had mixed in it the sense of 2 powerful exotic beasts. One was the illusionary poison scorpion, a rare-level exotic beast, possessing terrifying spiritual toxins and a shell as tough as the armored earth dragon. The other was the blood poison snake, a rare-level exotic beast, possessing terrifying chi blood toxins and the highest attack speed. Under the same level, almost no creature could escape its attack range. The top student at Shanghai University had a total of 2 poison attribute exotic beast genes fused in his body. Compared to other genetic integration geniuses, the number of exotic beast genes fused wasn't much. However, both fused exotic beast genes were at the rare level. Quality was extremely high. Both exotic beast genes are poison-based. It's a good opportunity to test the myriad poison mongoose's immunity to 100 poisons effect. He's a worthy opponent, Linziken silently thought. At this moment, his mindset was completely opposite Zhou Suihong's. Zhou Suihong was worried. He was calmly composed. With 4 times body tempering great accomplishment, his own chi blood strength and spiritual strength were comparable to a high-level 3rd order genetic integrator. Plus, with the support of biometric attributes like survival of the fittest, social animal, immunity to 100 poisons, his strength could easily crush Zhou Suihong on the other side. With this premise, it was hard not to be stable mentally. At this point, Zhou Suihong across from him said, Linziken, you're even more talented than I imagined. Your evolutionary talent far exceeds mine. By your senior year, your achievements will definitely make the current me look far inferior. But that's 3 years from now. Right now, you're simply no match for me. Today, as your senior, I must teach you a lesson about life. Until you have the strength to defeat any opponent, do not appear too sharp and imposing. Otherwise, your opponents might very well nip you in the bud. You're right, Linziken nodded in agreement. That's why I've never really shown off before, until now when I've found strong support, my personal safety is ensured, and I'm starting to reveal my true strength. His statement, though it seemed directed at Zhou Suihong across from him, was meant for everyone present. He believed that there were definitely traitors among the audience. He wanted to communicate the information that he had support to those traitors who had designs on him. To warn those traitors to think thrice before acting rashly against him. To reduce the risk of being attacked by a traitor. However, there were advantages and disadvantages to this approach. While it reduced the risk of being attacked, it might lead to situations like the following. Originally, a traitor planned to send a rare-level fighter to attack him, but upon hearing that he had strong support, they quickly changed it to sending an epic-level expert instead. Lin Zikin felt that publicly disclosing he had support was more beneficial than not, so he chose to make it public. "Who is your support?" Zhou Suihong asked curiously. He had seen Lin Zikin's file and was somewhat familiar with Lin Zikin's personal information. Just a kid from an ordinary family. No notable background. Hard to imagine he could have any strong support. The others below the stage were also curious about the support Lin Zikin mentioned, all ears waiting for Lin Zikin's reply. Facing Zhou Suihong's question, Lin Zikin simply said calmly, "It's inconvenient to answer." Hearing this from Lin Zikin, Zhou Suihong immediately lost any interest in continuing their conversation. With a thought, he overactivated the exotic beast genes inside his body. Then, visible physical mutations began to occur on his body. Large amounts of fresh red tissues grew between his legs, tightly linking his legs together. His hands swelled quickly, and the palms differentiated into two pincers. His skin became rough and tough, with the upper body differentiating into a hard shell, and the lower body into numerous black scales. In just the blink of an eye, the whole person transformed from a handsome young man into a stitched monster with a snake tail for the lower body, a scorpion's body for the upper body, and a human head on top. The president coming in mutated form means he's serious. He definitely needs to be serious. Lin Zikin took out the vice president instantly as soon as he stepped up. What if the president gets taken out instantly if he doesn't go all out from the start? The president's mutated form is incredibly strong. During last year's University League, Beijing University's genius Li Yujin was nearly poisoned by him. Chapter 333, 204. Student Council President? One kick is enough, _2. Facing such a strong opponent, I'm curious to see how Lin Zikin will deal with him shortly. Isn't the president going too far? Transforming to this extent could cause irreversible damage to his body, right? That's where you're wrong. The president can become the top student at Shan University precisely because he has a special physique, which uniquely allows him to excessively activate the exotic beast gene and enter a transformed state, then revert back to normal anytime afterward. Such was the buzz among the audience. Lin Zikin listened for a moment, his heart undisturbed. Zhou Suihong's special physique did sound amazing, but it seemed rather ordinary and unimpressive compared to Shen Qinghan's special physique. "President, let's make a bet," Lin Zikin said, looking at the transformed Zhou Suihong. "Zhou Suihong, bet on what?" "Lin Zikin, if I win, I'll take over as student council president. If you win, I'll detour whenever I see someone from the student council." "Fine." Zhou Suihong agreed without hesitation. A freshman daring to initiate a bet gave him, as student council president, no reason to refuse, nor could he refuse. Because to refuse would be to admit cowardice. He, the student council president, couldn't afford to lose face like that. "Then let's begin," Lin Zikin said indifferently. As soon as his voice fell, he flashed forward, taking the initiative to charge toward Zhou Suihong. So fast! Zhou Suihong was shocked by Lin Zikin's astonishing speed, disbelief filling his heart. But it was just shock, he didn't become flustered. Lin Zikin was fast, but still within Zhou Suihong's capacity to respond. Buzz! A piercing sound of an air explosion rang out. In the moment that Lin Zikin reached him, Zhou Suihong reacted swiftly, sidestepping to avoid the attack and at the same time lashing out with his snake tail, fiercely aiming its spiked tip at Lin Zikin's thigh. Lin Zikin could have dodged, but he chose not to. He wanted to test the strength of the immunity to 100 poisons attribute. Thump! A muffled sound of tearing flesh resonated. The sharp spike pierced directly into Lin Zikin's thigh, and in an instant, a large amount of blood chi spirit poison was injected into his system. Once the toxins entered his body, they ravaged Lin Zikin's physique with relentless ferocity. Zhou Suihong was taken aback. He hadn't expected the spikes on his tail to hit so accurately and strike Lin Zikin. Usually, his tail spikes were meant to force opponents to maneuver. It was hard to hit directly. Only by restraining the opponent or catching them off guard with a sneak attack was there a chance to hit them. It seems I overestimated you, Zhou Suihong said, stepping back with a chuckle. He didn't attack the poisoned Lin Zikan. He just quietly watched for Lin Zikan's reaction to the poison. To savor the delightful scene of Lin Zikan succumbing to the toxin. Below the stage. Seeing Lin Zikan hit by the tail spike, the crowd shook their heads and commented. Is it over just like that? Lin Zikan was too careless, that spike didn't seem fast. I could have dodged it, how come he got stabbed? Still too young, he has strength but lacks combat experience. All we can say is, a freshman is still a freshman, with a lot of room for growth and improvement. Boring, it was over before it started, and I thought we were in for a good show. At that moment, nearly everyone believed Lin Zikan had been defeated, easily subdued by Zhou Suihong with a single move. After all, even someone as formidable as Li Yujin from Beijing University, a world-class genius, wouldn't dare to withstand Zhou Suihong's blood-chi spirit poison. And yet, Lin Zikan, no matter how strong, was not supposed to be stronger than Li Yujin, the top student of Beijing University at this stage. This was destined to end with Zhou Suihong poisoning him, leading to an unwilling loss in this duel. However, contrary to what everyone thought, at this moment, on the stage, Lin Zikan only felt a bit of numbness in his body and a slight dizziness in his head. Beyond that, there were no other sensations. Under the further protection of immunity to 100 poisons, those chi blood spirit mixed toxins that had invaded Lin Zikan's body were quickly decomposed and absorbed, transformed into nourishment for Lin Zikan's chi blood spirit. Chi blood +1. Spirit +1. The biometric attribute immunity to 100 poisons is so powerful. Lin Zikan felt a slight surge of excitement in his heart. He then steadied his emotions and looked at Zhou Suihong opposite him, asking, was that strike just now the most poisonous one you can deliver? Seeing Lin Zikan not only standing but also speaking with an air of nonchalance, Zhou Suihong's pupils shrank slightly, his face filled with life's doubts. This is impossible. That was a toxin that even Li Yujin found difficult to resist. How could a freshman like him possibly withstand it? What on earth is going on? Buzz! A bursting sound echoed. Zhou Suihong took a step forward like an arrow, furiously attacking Lin Zikan. He didn't believe Lin Zikan wasn't poisoned. He thought that Lin Zikan must be bluffing, suppressing the urge to fall. As long as he rushed over and attacked, Lin Zikan would instantly reveal his weakness and fall to the ground, poisoned. Lin Zikan watched Zhou Suihong charge at him at high speed. Seeing doubt plastered across his face, Lin Zikan felt he already had the answer. The sharp sting from just now must have been the most poisonous strike Zhou Suihong could have executed. It's time to end this. Thinking this, Lin Zikan raised his right arm and hurled a fierce punch at the oncoming Zhou Suihong. The punch seemed unremarkable. But attached to the fist was an ocean-like torrent of blood chi power. He struck. The force of the blow surged forth like a landslide, violently rushing toward Zhou Suihong. Zhou Suihong, sprinting at high speed, felt his legs go weak instinctively upon sensing that overwhelming blood chi power, his eyes filled with the innate fear of death. The next second, there was only a boom as the punch exploded out. Lin Zikan's fist, like a cannon defending a city, blasted out a terrifying current of air. This current sent Zhou Suihong, who was charging full speed, flying. Then, under the astonished gaze of the audience, Zhou Suihong slammed into a solid martial stage pillar with a bang, bringing down the pillar with him as he flew out, only stopping when he crashed into a wall 10 meters away. Half of his body was embedded in the wall, completely immobilized. In an instant, the entire area fell silent. Everyone was stunned, unable to process what had just happened. Only Lin Zikan, who had sent Zhou Suihong flying with his punch, felt a pang in his heart. Bad. He used too much strength. Hopefully, he's alright. He thought about how Zhou Suihong's biological level was as high as a high-level third order and had merged with a rare-level exotic beast gene that could enhance his defense. He should have needed full power to finish him instantly. Now, although he had finished him in an instant, the force of that finish was too much. P.S. Begging bowl in hand, asking for monthly pass and recommendation tickets. Chapter 334, 205, Spiritual Power. Open the A-cup ointment. President. The female secretary, a mechanically modified human, rushed over to Zhou Suihong's side first. Some of the student council members who had reacted also came forward to check on him. The situation did not look good. Zhou Suihong's half-body was stuck in the wall, with the other half that was exposed outside horribly mangled. Flesh burst open, bones shattered. The injury was extremely serious. Moreover, the injury was still worsening. Because the qi blood that Lin Zikan had released was wreaking havoc inside Zhou Suihong's body, continuously battering his internal structure. Seeing Zhou Suihong's injuries, the female secretary couldn't be more shocked. Just now, the fist of the new king hadn't even touched the president, but the mere explosive release of qi blood had blasted him into a state of near death. What on earth was the strength of this new king? High-level 4th order? No, at least high-level 5th order to start with. The more the female secretary thought about it, the more shocked she became. She couldn't help but look back at Lin Zikan on the martial stage and thought to herself that he truly was a monster. On the school leaders' side, without exception, they were all dumbfounded, unable to believe the scene that had just unfolded before their eyes. Including Yuan Dongji, Lu Juanwu, and Song Yuan, 3 people who had some understanding of Lin Zikan's strength. The trio knew Lin Zikan was strong, stronger than the student council president, Zhou Suihong. But they never imagined Lin Zikan would be this outrageously strong. A freshman, with just one punch thrown through the air, had severely injured the top student of Shanghai University, leaving him at death's door. It was simply unbelievable. President Liu, what's the deal with this Lin Zikan in your Tianren pavilion? How can the qi blood in his body be so terrifyingly robust? The school's academic affairs director, a bald middle-aged man named Zhou Ziawei, looked at Lu Juanwu with an incredulous face and asked. Lu Juanwu himself didn't know why Lin Zikan could be so exaggerated, but, after thinking for a moment, said, "This is the value of being a pure-blood human, unmatched in the same order." Song Yuan glanced at Lu Juanwu and silently gave him a thumbs up in her heart, thinking the president was indeed the president, who didn't forget to promote the pure-blood human path even at this time. Yuan Dongji at the side, however, fell into contemplation. She felt that Lin Zikan's formidable strength might not have much to do with the pure-blood human path. It was purely Lin Zikan's own incredible talents. His physical aptitude was earth-shatteringly brilliant. To describe it in 4 words, it was what countless relics referred to physical sanctification. The pure-blood human path, or more accurately the blood-tempering technique, in terms of Lin Zikan's strength, was just icing on the cake, not a life-saving straw. Ma Zhenhe, who was nearby, stood there completely stunned, his face doubtful of life itself. The strength displayed by Lin Zikan just now on the martial stage felt no less than his own as the Dean of Evolution College. Thinking back to when he had decided that Lin Zikan would hit a wall in the pure-blood human path within half a year and then come groveling to Evolution College for a transfer, his face burned with shame. Could it be that the pure-blood human path truly is the future of mankind? Ma Zhenhe murmured to himself, questioning his views for the first time. At the same time, elsewhere, Shen Qinghan's pretty face was flushed with excitement, just like a little kid who sees a monster defeated by a superhero on TV, completely thrilled. She had been looking forward to the moment Lin Zikan would become the top student of Shanghai University for too long. From the day she enrolled at Shanghai University during her summer break in senior year of high school to this very moment. Finally, she witnessed Lin Zikan ascend to the position of top student at Shanghai University, stunning everyone present. Next to her, Ma Ziwei looked at Zhou Suihong, who was half stuck in the wall, and her thoughts about following the pure-blood human path grew even more resolute. Regardless of whether Ma Zhenhe agreed or not, she decided to clean out all the exotic beast genes from her body in a few days and switch to the pure-blood human path. Next door, Luo Yongjian came to his senses from his stupor, his voice a bit dumbfounded. "Brother Yu, am I seeing things? How did Chen just knock out the student council president with one punch?" Li Moya was even more baffled. "Don't ask me, I don't know either." As the second young master of the capital city Li family, Li Moya considered himself well-traveled and had seen all kinds of geniuses. But he had never seen a genius like Lin Zikan. It was too exaggerated. So exaggerated it was insane. Even his own elder brother, also known as Earth's savior Li Yujin, compared to Lin Zikan on the martial stage at this moment, it was like comparing ants to an elephant, with no comparability at all. The difference was so vast it made one despair. On the martial stage, Lin Zikan glanced at Zhou Suihong in the wall ahead, noticing that he was barely alive and not immediately dead, so he let out a sigh of relief. He was actually worried that his punch had killed Zhou Suihong on the spot. Challenging the student council was only to display his strength and talent, so he could make it to the list of alien human-level geniuses. And incidentally to take the position of student council president, as well as to top the peak list, getting credit subsidies and rewards. He never intended to do much to the older student council members. At most, he just wanted to teach them a lesson, so they would stop exploiting the freshmen. "Han Han, let's go," Lin Zikan said as he descended from the martial stage and gestured for Shen Qinghan to come over. Shen Qinghan, hearing this, immediately wrapped her clothes around her and trotted over. The two didn't stay in the gym for long and quickly walked out the main entrance, leaving behind a crowd that still felt a bit surreal about what they had witnessed. Chapter 335, 205, Spiritual Power. Open the A-cup ointment, _2. Ziai Chen, wait up, why are you rushing off so quickly? Song Yuan called out as she chased after him. She didn't understand. Lin Zikan had just instantly knocked out Zhou Suihong with one punch on the martial stage. Now was the perfect time to show off, so why did he leave just like that? Lin Zikan didn't even turn his head, simply saying faintly, "Han Han has too much blood on her, I need to take her back to the dorm to clean it up." Inside the gym, Yuan Dongji came forward to check on Zhou Suihong's injuries and, seeing that he was fine, quickly left the gym as well. She needed to go back to her office to pull up the surveillance footage from the gym and watch Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan's performance on the martial stage again. Then send the footage to the Vice-Governor Ye Yongsheng to help them get on the alien human-level genius list earlier. Zhongyuan Building No. 8. Dormitory 603. Lin Zikan took Shen Qinghan into the bathroom, asked her to take off her clothes, and checked her for any injuries. Shen Qinghan quickly stripped off her clothing, including her bra and underwear, completely bare. Lin Zikan carefully examined her body and found that all her injuries had healed. Aside from the ones she came in with, all those other holes pierced by feathers had closed, her body looked as good as new, showing no signs of ever being injured. This living dead slug's gene is really not bad. It hasn't even been half an hour, and all the wounds on your body have healed, leaving no trace at all. Lin Zikan said with a gentle tone, touching Shen Qinghan's tender and smooth skin. Shen Qinghan let him touch her, just feeling a bit ticklish, unconsciously squeezing her legs together. After checking her body, Lin Zikan turned on the shower behind him and stood in it with Shen Qinghan, helping her wash off the blood stains on her body. After that, they sat together in a bathtub filled with hot water, soaking in a bath to relax. "You were really striking back there on the martial stage, blasting away the student council president with one punch." The crowd was utterly shocked. Everyone was amazed. Shen Qinghan said with a sweet smile. Lin Zikan smiled, "You looked cool too." You took out the External Affairs Minister of the Student Council in a flash. Xiao Chen, are we now the unmatched duo of Shan University? Of course, we are. It feels so unreal. To think in just a short half-year, I've become this powerful. My progression is like riding a rocket. Shen Qinghan said incredulously. When school started 6 months ago, her biological level was just an ordinary second order, the lowest in the genius class. Now, her biological level had evolved to ordinary 8th order, higher than anyone else in the genius class, going from the absolute last to the very first, something she could never have dreamed of. Lin Zikan, that's why I've always been telling you, you're a special existence just like me. As long as the superpowers are developed, the strength could advance by leaps and bounds. Speaking of which, I still don't fully understand what my superpower is exactly. I just know I have a high affinity for water, and my genes can enslave the water attribute exotic beast gene. That's about it, Shen Qinghan said, then asked, Xiao Chen, what do you think those voices in the sea are about? What kind of being is making them? Lin Zikan thought for a moment and said, I don't know either, but, the being making those sounds probably means us no harm, after all, it saved us both last time in the coastal forest. Xiao Chen, could it be that there's some kind of inheritance inside me, like an inheritance from the sea god, water elementalist, or water sprite, etc.? Possibly. After finishing, Lin Zikan added, anyway, your body is definitely not simple and surely has some secrets hidden. We'll need to study it carefully in the future. No need to wait for the future, we can study it closely right now. Shen Qinghan said as she took Lin Zikan's hand and placed it on her body. This nickname Little Naughty Girl really isn't wrong. Lin Zikan teased, and then, as Shen Qinghan wished, he started to explore her body with his hands, diligently probing for the secrets hidden inside her. Shen Qinghan leaned back against the bathtub, her eyes slightly closed, enjoying it. Half an hour later, the two finished their bath and came out of the bathroom, then went to the kitchen to make a quick lunch. They fried 2 pieces of exotic beast meat and cut up a large platter of spirit fruit. It took less than 10 minutes. After lunch, they went to their room to take a nap. At 2 p.m., they got up and headed together to the research institute. Shen Qinghan had originally planned to spend the whole day in the genius class, but after thinking it over, since they had already taken the group photo in the morning, she felt too lazy to continue attending class with them. She just switched from the genius class to the research institute. Everyone was still at the same school, and the dormitory was in the same building, so seeing each other every day was still possible. Pure Human Research Institute. As soon as Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan arrived, Lu Juanwu and Song Yuan immediately put down what they were working on and walked over to this pair of childhood sweethearts. Both had been shocked by the couple's performance on the martial stage that morning. And many questions had accumulated in their minds. Most of the curiosity was about Lin Zikan. The scene of Lin Zikan blasting away the student council president with one punch on the martial stage was simply too astonishing. It was hard not to be curious, not to wonder. Especially Song Yuan, who was so curious she wanted to strip Lin Zikan naked to study his body closely. If it weren't for Shen Qinghan being right there, she probably would have done it. Chapter 336, 205, Spiritual Power. Open the A-cup ointment, _3. About the incident at the gymnasium this morning, the four did not talk for long. They simply chatted for half an hour before ending their conversation. The topic quickly returned to the matter of activating acupoints. Currently, among the four from Tianren Pavilion, besides Shen Qinghan, the biological levels of the remaining 3 were stalled at an ordinary 9th order. All desperately needed to activate their acupoints to break free from the limitations of ordinary creatures and evolve into high-level creatures. In the following time, the 3 analyzed recent research findings and speculations to see how they could successfully activate the acupoints. Having just joined Tianren Pavilion, Shen Qinghan knew nothing about the research and sat quietly to one side, listening to the three analyzing and tried not to make noise to disturb them. Unless faced with a particularly curious question, she would then ask. After more than 2 hours of analysis, the three eventually summarized the following three guesses. 1. Only after achieving body tempering great accomplishment 5 times could one control chi blood to activate the body's acupoints. 2. Activating the body's acupoints had nothing to do with how many times one undertook body refining, but rather, it required the use of spiritual power. 3. Activating the body's acupoints required both 5 instances of body tempering great accomplishment and the use of spiritual power. Zi Chen, your Yun sister and I don't have strong enough spiritual strength to control it like we control chi blood. As for activating acupoints using spiritual power, you'll need to explore and verify it, Lu Chuanwu said. After finishing, Lu Chuanwu looked towards the quietly sitting Shen Qinghan and said, King Han, your spiritual strength is also not weak, you can explore and verify it together with Zi Chen. Yes, I understand, Principal. Shen Qinghan nodded obediently. At this moment, Lin Zikan curiously asked, by the way, Principal, I've been at Shan University for half a year now. Why have I never seen other administrative leaders of the same level apart from Principal Yuan? What about the vice principals? Lu Chuanwu replied, these people are currently in the origin land defending Earth from invasion, or rather, they are in the origin land seeking higher levels of evolution. I see. Lin Zikan nodded. Just as he had thought, most of Earth's strong humans were in the origin land. The number of strong humans remaining on Earth could be counted on one's fingers. Lu Chuanwu added, basically, all human powerhouses are in the origin land, only no bodies would stay on Earth to handle administrative work. You'll understand once you go to the origin land yourself. As soon as he had finished speaking, a graceful figure dressed in a cheongsam walked in. It was Yuan Dongji. She had just walked in and heard Lu Chuanwu's last comment, which made her face look somewhat displeased. What did he mean by only no bodies would stay on Earth to handle administrative work? Who was Lu insulting? Seeing Yuan Dongji's displeased expression, Lu Chuanwu realized he had misspoken. His blanket criticism had accidentally targeted his ex-wife. Regarding this, he could only pretend nothing had happened, to avoid making everyone uncomfortable. Lin Zikan, sensing the awkward atmosphere, took the initiative to break the silence. Principal Yuan, what brings you here? Yuan Dongji replied indifferently, I came to see how Shen Qinghan is doing with her enslavement by the water butterfly gene and to see if she can activate the water butterfly gene to use illusion technique. That last afternoon, Yuan Dongji had stayed in the office, watching surveillance footage of Shen Qinghan sparring on the martial stage, noticing that Shen Qinghan seemed to have used the water butterfly's illusion technique attack, so she thought of coming to the research institute to ask her. Lin Zikan nodded, then asked again, by the way, Principal Yuan, I made a bet with Zhou Suihong this morning, saying I would be the head of the student council if I won. Does that count? Of course. Yuan Dongji confirmed. Lin Zikan continued, in that case, now that I am both the head of the student council and number 1 on the school's peak list, how many study credits and rewards can I get each month? Yuan Dongji, the head of the student council can get a subsidy of 500 study credits monthly, and the top of the peak list can get a 500 study credits reward monthly. Together that makes 1000 study credits each month. 1000 study credits? Upon hearing this number, Lin Zikan raised an eyebrow. Earning 1000 study credits a month, which converted to money, meant gaining over 10 million a month. He was going to be rich. P.S. Bowl ready, seeking monthly pass and recommendation tickets. Chapter 337, 206, Orifice Opening Method. High-level creatures within reach. In the evening, after dinner and a bath, Lin Zikan sat cross-legged on the bed, attempting to use spiritual power to strike his acupoints. Shen Qinghan also followed suit. The method of striking was the same as when using chi blood. Only the chi blood power was replaced with spiritual power, which was condensed into needle-like forms, forcefully thrusting into the middle of the acupoints. Hiss! 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 With each strike on an A-cup ointment, Linziken gasped from the pain. However, the A-cup ointment remained completely unresponsive, showing no signs of being penetrated by spiritual power at all. After over half an hour of continuous attempts, he did not break through. Linziken gave up. He thought that opening the acupoints probably didn't require spiritual power. After all, he was cultivating the blood tempering technique, and it might still rely on chi blood power to open the acupoints. As expected, only after reaching body tempering great accomplishment could the acupoints be forced open with chi blood power. MMM, MMM, MMM. Beside him, Shen Qinghan was still trying to open her acupoints with spiritual power, emitting a grunt with every impact. Listening to her sounds was somewhat pleasant to hear, so much so that Linziken almost reacted. Linziken had initially planned to lie down and play on his phone. Seeing the little filthy girl so enthusiastic, still sitting cross-legged on the bed and constantly striking her acupoints, he also started striking his own acupoints again. Ah! Suddenly, Shen Qinghan, quietly sitting on the bed and striking her acupoints, let out a painful scream. Linziken asked with concern, "What's wrong?" Shen Qinghan took a moment to recover, and then, changing from a pained expression to an excited one, she said, "Xiao Chen, my A-cup ointment moved, it just trembled a bit." "It moved?" Linziken was surprised. Shen Qinghan excitedly said, "Really, it moved?" Seeing the little filthy girl so excited, Linziken couldn't help being excited too and hurriedly asked, "How did you do it?" 9 shallow, 1 deep. Hey! That is, strike the A-cup ointment gently with spiritual power for the first 9 times, then switch to chi blood power and hit it hard on the 10th time, then the A-cup ointment can be moved. Really? Linziken was firstly dumbfounded, then skeptical. It wasn't that he didn't believe Shen Qinghan, but the method she described sounded too absurd. It sounded like a practical joke. Ever since Shen Qinghan became obsessed with Sakura Sea Country's anime, her thoughts had become corrupted. The overall image from the initial girlish pink had transformed into the current filthy yellow. Sometimes, when the mood struck, she'd flirt with dirty jokes. Linziken seriously suspected that the little filthy girl was currently making dirty jokes. Facing his skepticism, Shen Qinghan said seriously, "Really, it's 9 shallow and 1 deep, you should try it, it really can loosen the A-cup ointment." "Then I'll give it a try." Linziken didn't waste any time, immediately starting to strike his acupoints the way Shen Qinghan described. 9 gentle strikes with spiritual power followed by 1 forceful strike with chi blood power. On the last chi blood power strike, Linziken, like Shen Qinghan just before, couldn't help but let out an ah. Pain. It was too painful. Enduring that last chi blood power strike, Linziken felt his entire heart being pierced by a silver needle, the pain almost stopping his heart, near blacking out. But he didn't care about the pain, soon becoming excited as his heart raced. The A-cup ointment really loosened. The little filthy girl's 9 shallow, 1 deep strikes were truly effective. "Little Linzi, am I impressive or what?" Seeing the excitement on Linziken's face, Shen Qinghan knew her method worked for him too and immediately hummed proudly. Just after speaking, she suddenly raised her hand to cover her cherry lips, quickly correcting, "I accidentally spoke too quickly just now, misspoke, not little Linzi, but Linzi, I meant to call Linzi." She was afraid that calling him little Linzi could lead Linziken to use torture on her, slipping his hand under her skirt to tickle her. Seeing her panicked like this, Linziken couldn't help but laugh, saying, "Tickling you was just teasing you before, you can call me whatever you want." "You said it, don't complain if next time I call you, you lift my skirt to tickle me." A gentleman's word, a steed is unable to chase. I don't want you to be a gentleman, I want you to be a lecher. A gentleman can also be lascivious. Saying that, Lin Zikin wrapped his arm around Shen Qinghan's waist, pulled her in and kissed her, tasting her soft, crystal clear cherry lips. They didn't kiss for too long, just briefly indicating their affection before they separated. Refocusing their minds back on striking the acupoints. After about another half hour, Lin Zikin couldn't endure it any longer, feeling like he was about to black out and faint. The stimulation from striking the acupoints was too intense. The pain was very severe. Moreover, it was particularly draining. Continuously striking for half an hour was Lin Zikin's limit. Any more and he would lose consciousness. Shen Qinghan was in a similar state, feeling dizzy and weakly lying on the bed to rest. Lin Zikin picked up his phone. In the Tianren Pavilion's WeChat group with 4 people, he shared Shen Qinghan's discovery with Lu Juanyu and Song Yuan. The 2 of them immediately went to test Shen Qinghan's method of 9 shallow, 1 deep opening apertures. About a few minutes later, they replied in the group one after another. Dean, my spiritual power is too low, I can't perform the 9 shallow, 1 deep strike on the A-cup ointment. Yuan sister, me too, it feels so bad I want to cry. Yuan sister, can't do it, I need to take a loan and eat various exotic fruits to quickly enhance my spiritual strength. Dean at Zi Chen at Qinghan, you two come to the institute early tomorrow, show me and your Yuan sister exactly how you do the 9 shallow, 1 deep. Chapter 338, 206, The Orifice Opening Method. High-level creatures are within reach, _2. Zi Chen, okay, I'll try to get there early with Han Han tomorrow. After ending the chat, Lin Zikin looked at Shen Qinghan lying beside him, picked up one of her jade feet, and as he caressed it, he said, the 9 shallow and 1 deep pounding can loosen the A-cup ointment, the way you figured it out, you really are defying the heavens. How is it defying the heavens? I'm just lucky. Many of the world's great discoveries were found by lucky ones like me by accident. You're different from the rest. Others have luck, you have a fool's luck. You're the fool. Shen Qinghan gave Lin Zikin a look, and with her foot, she rubbed his face to express her dissatisfaction. Lin Zikin let her rub as he said, the Dean and Yan sister have been researching for so many years and haven't found a way to open the acupoints. You little dirty girl just randomly fiddle around and you figure it out. It's really unbelievable. As he spoke, Lin Zikin put down the little dirty girl's fair and cute jade foot and said in a gentle voice, for such a great achievement, you must be rewarded. Tell me, what reward do you want? Shen Qinghan thought for a moment, her eyes watery, and she said, how about you act as my loyal dog tonight? After saying that, she quickly added another sentence, just like how I usually act as your loyal dog. Your wish is my command. Lin Zikin agreed without hesitation and quickly got into action, prepared to be the little dirty girl's loyal dog. Just as he was about to make a move, Shen Qinghan spoke up, wait a second. What's wrong? I also want to act as your loyal dog, let's share the blessings. Is that how sharing blessings is supposed to be used? Oh, don't sweat the small stuff, okay. Shen Qinghan pursed her lips slightly, expressing her discontent. Seeing her pouting more than her bottom, Lin Zikin knew better than to speak any further. At the same time, Kyoto University, Administrative Building, Student Council President's Office. Beijing University's genius Li Yujin was staring intently with several senior members of the Student Council at the projector in front of them. The content displayed on the projector was the video of Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan challenging the Student Council in the gym during the day. When they saw Lin Zikin release just an ordinary punch that left Zhou Suihong gasping for air, everyone in the office was shocked, their eyes wide open in disbelief. Especially the secretary sitting next to Li Yujin, a cute cat-eared girl who was a genetic integrator, her cherry-sized small mouth opened wide enough to fit 3 cucumbers at once, astoundedly shocked. After a moment of shock, A chorus of exclamations erupted in the office. What's the situation? Zhou Suihong was actually taken out by a freshman from his school. What's the deal with this new king from Shan University? How is he so strong? I know this new king from Shan University, he was last year's Nanjiang province's runner-up. Last year, he joined the Tianren Pavilion to pursue the pure-blood human path and caused a media frenzy. Isn't the pure-blood human path a dead end? How did he become so strong? That girl with the blue hair is pretty strong, too. While everyone was exclaiming, Li Yujin remained silent, just blankly staring at the image on the projector. At this moment, his mentality, which has been praised as a world-level genius by various news media from an early age, was completely shattered. Utterly shattered, scattered everywhere. He and Zhou Suihong had always been rivals, both competing for a spot on the list of alien human-level geniuses. During that time, he had always suppressed Zhou Suihong, using him as a stepping stone. He proved his own strength and talent by dominating Zhou Suihong on the martial stage, aiming to appeal to the list of alien human-level geniuses. But his so-called domination was nothing more than not being seriously injured while defeating Zhou Suihong. The kind of overwhelming defeat where Lin Zikan knocked out his rival with just one punch also crushed his own mentality through the screen. Crushed it to pieces. World-level genius? Ha, what a world-level genius! I'm just a marketing champion. Li Yujin mocked himself with an exploding mentality. Others in the office, upon hearing this, suddenly became completely silent, daring not to make any noise. The president of Beijing University had a fiery temper, and if someone said the wrong thing and angered him, they might get hit. Origin land. In a vast city. The 28 people on the list of alien human-level geniuses were all gathered in the exchange hall, resting. These 28 had just wiped out a group of high-level creatures in the forest 50 kilometers away from the city that intended to attack it. Fuzhou, how did the hunt go this time? Not bad, I killed 3 thundercloud beasts and exchanged them for 150 contribution points. Alan, what about you? I killed a high-level 6th order ice snake and exchanged it for 60 contribution points. Zhang Tao, I heard you killed a half-step rare-level green vine centipede. Pretty impressive. Just luck. A man carrying a big chopper walked over to chat with this group of alien human-level geniuses. The usually arrogant alien human-level geniuses all lowered their posture significantly in the presence of this man. The man was the previous captain of this alien human-level team. Last year, he turned 30 and automatically left the team to take up another position elsewhere. Despite already having left the team for a year, the members still highly respected the former captain. Where is Kyungsu? The man scanned the crowd but didn't see the white-haired girl he wanted to see, so he asked the other members. A sister with buns said, she split from us the moment we entered the city gate. She probably went back to her dormitory. This girl is still so withdrawn. The man shook his head. Bun-haired sister, LU team, why do you care so much about her? She's an alien, not an earthling. We don't even want to deal with her. Another young man indifferently said, those not of our kind surely have different minds. That white-haired woman better stay away from us. Hearing the two of them say this, the man wanted to persuade them not to be like that. But after some thought, he ultimately didn't speak up. Both their parents were killed by aliens, which made them hostile towards aliens. And Luo Kyungsu was an alien. Expecting them to put aside their prejudices against an alien was somewhat unrealistic. Not just the two of them, more than 1/3 of the team's parents had been killed by aliens. All of them died in a big battle 15 years ago. Why are there so many people today? A voice with a certain authority rang out. Everyone looked towards the voice and respectfully exclaimed. Province Lord! Province Lord! Hello, Province Lord! Accompanied by these shouts, Ye Yongsheng came over with his secretary. The man asked, Province Lord, Didn't you say you were going to stay on Earth for half a month to handle some matters? Why did you come back to the origin land so soon? Ye Yongsheng replied impassively, the matters on Earth have been dealt with ahead of schedule, so I came back here early. After speaking, he added, by the way, there's news I want to tell you. In some time, 2 new members will be joining your team. New members? Everyone was taken aback. It had been almost 3 years since any new people joined the team, and now suddenly 2 were coming. It was indeed quite abrupt. A young man from the capital city asked, who are they, Province Lord? Ye Yongsheng said, they are 2 freshmen from Shan University this year, 1 male and 1 female. 19 years old? That old? The crowd was somewhat surprised. The geniuses that usually joined the team were generally very young, mostly under 10 years of age. Suddenly 2 19-year-olds were joining. Could they be late bloomers? 20,000 meters below Shanghai City. Inside the underground palace, a bald masked person was reporting to a 4-leaf clover masked person about Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan's achievement in challenging the student council, as well as whether they should attack Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan since Lin Zikan has a backing. The 4-leaf clover masked person said that the primary matter at hand was the biological channel. The matter of Lin Zikan could wait. In the end, they wrote that the high-level channel was ready, and they could begin to transfer a large number of high-level origin land creatures to Earth. 3 months later, once they had accumulated enough high-level origin land creatures, they would seize Shanghai City and establish an origin land base. After establishing the base, catching Lin Zikan could wait. P.S. Begging for your monthly passes and recommendation votes. Chapter 339, 207. Tianren Pavilion adds another member. The next morning, Lin Zikan got up early, checked the news on his phone for a while. Then opened the school app to order exotic beast meat. There were 10 pounds of dimension rat meat, and he bought all of it. Once it was delivered, he could increase the progress of activating the dimensional rat album to 11%. With the remaining credits, he purchased living dead slugs, ferocious great eagle, 9 revolution soul worm, and other exotic beast meats to further strengthen the biometric attributes he had already obtained. After breakfast, Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan went to the research institute to share with Lu Juanyu and Song Yu in their experience from last night's attempt at opening apertures. They demonstrated the 9 shallow 1 deep impact method on site. After witnessing it, both were incredibly incredulous, as if the whole thing were as unreal as a dream. Especially Lu Juanyu. He really hadn't expected that the orifice opening method he had researched for so many years would be figured out by a little sister who had just joined Tianren Pavilion a few days ago. It was both joyous and sad. The joy was that the research had finally made a breakthrough. The sadness was that effort didn't compare to luck. Thinking this, Lu Juanyu asked, Zi Chen, how long do you feel it will take for you to completely open apertures and evolve from a pure-blood human into a high-level creature? Lin Zikan, if nothing unexpected happens, I feel I could do it this semester. Hearing this answer, Lu Juanyu got excited. He originally thought that it would be very quick if Lin Zikan could evolve into a high-level creature before graduating college. But to think, it could happen this semester. After calming his emotions a bit, Lu Juanyu patted Lin Zikan's shoulder and said with a full smile, once you evolve into a high-level creature, I'll take you to see that bronze ancient coffin to see if you can break the seal. Okay, Lin Zikan replied indifferently. Lu Juanyu added, by then I'll call over Yuan Dongji and some of my old friends to guard you, if Lord Ye is also free, I'll invite him as well. The woman in the bronze ancient coffin, although she was the pavilion master of Tianren Pavilion, and the relics were full of her praise. But Lu Juanyu felt that it was safer to be cautious and better safe than sorry. At that moment, the phone in Lin Zikan's pocket began to vibrate violently. He took it out and looked. It was a call from an unfamiliar number. Hello, good day, Lin Zikan answered the call politely. Soon, a familiar voice came through the phone. Lin student, hello, I am Secretary Zhang who accompanied Lord Ye to visit the research institute that day. So it's Secretary Zhang, hello, Lin Zikin replied politely once more. Secretary Zhang did not beat around the bush and directly stated, it's like this, Lord Ye saw your school surveillance footage of challenging the student council and believes you have reached the standard to enter the alien human level genius list, and had me notify you. Also, your little girlfriend is a bit lacking in strength, but she has a very special constitution. She should be able to catch up quickly once she enters Origin Land, and she is worth cultivating. Lord Ye said she can also be on the list. After finishing, Secretary Zhang continued, you two have successfully entered the list, and following normal procedures, it won't be long before you're arranged to report to Origin Land, and then stay there to grow. However, you two are now the representative figures of the pure-blood human path, and Lord Ye would like to see you develop the pure-blood human path first before arranging for you to enter Origin Land. Lin Zikin, to what extent is it considered developed? Secretary Zhang, a scale of 100 people is considered developed. Lin Zikin, okay, I got it, thank you for the notification, Secretary Zhang. After chatting for a few more sentences, Secretary Zhang hung up the phone. As soon as the call ended, Lin Zikin shared the good news with Shen Qinghan. Shen Qinghan was overjoyed after hearing it. Lu Chuanwu and Song Yuan congratulated from the side. Lin Zikin didn't feel particularly happy. There was no ripple in his heart. Because he knew he was definitely capable of entering the alien human level genius list. In the afternoon, Lin Zikin did not go to the research institute. Instead, he headed over to the administration building, to the student council office to take up his post. When he arrived at the office, it was already full of people. As soon as they saw him come in, they immediately stood up in unison and shouted, President! President! Greetings, President! Hearing these greetings, Lin Zikin was somewhat surprised. He had thought that the older students in the council wouldn't welcome him and might stir up trouble. For example, give him a bit of a power show. But it seemed that wouldn't be the case at all. That makes sense. After all, as a freshman, I knocked out the student council president with a single punch. These older students in the council, unless they're brainless, would choose not to offend me. Thinking this, Lin Zikin walked over and sat down in the main seat. The others dared to sit down after they saw him sit, fearing being targeted by this newcomer king. A new official always lights three fires. Now was the most dangerous time, they couldn't afford to offend Lin Zikin. Otherwise, they were likely to be made an example of. Everyone was very clear about this. However, Lin Zikin had no such intention. He glanced over everyone and said indifferently, I'm here today to convey just one thing. Student council work remains as usual, however it was before, it will still be the same. I won't interfere too much with your freedom, provided that you no longer infringe on the rights of new students like before. That's all I have to say, meeting adjourned. Having said that, Lin Zikin stood up and left, not even turning his head back. Halfway through, he stopped to add, also, if there's anything, just contact the vice president. As student council president, he was only there for the credit subsidy and never intended to be involved in the affairs. Chapter 340, 207, Tianren Pavilion adds another member _2. Although ignoring academic credits might seem irresponsible, it was a situation both parties were happy to see. Because these veteran students of the student council didn't want to be managed by a freshman like him. The seniors recognized Lin Zikin's strength, but not necessarily his management. Self-governance was the best scenario. In the days that followed, Lin Zikin spent his days refining his body and his nights trying to open his acupoints. Every day was the same, quite fulfilling. During spare time, he would visit his parents and buy some supplements for them. As for earning academic credits through off-campus tasks, he had not done even once. He feared that leaving the university might expose him to attacks from the divine plant cult. Even though the vice-governor had promised full protection, he was still worried. Days passed by like this. A month later, Lin Zikin had successfully completed tempering skin 5 times, advanced over halfway through tempering flesh, and the A-cup ointment he had been challenging had become more flexible. Shen Qinghan, who had been refining his body and working on his acupoints alongside him daily, made fast progress as well, having reached the stage of tempering bone 3 times. Simultaneously, his acupoints had become increasingly flexible, feeling like they could be opened very soon. With this pace, there would be no problem opening the acupoints before the semester ended. Time flew rapidly. Before they knew it, half a month had passed. That morning, the research institute was filled with a hearty laughter of relief and triumph. "Haha, I've done it, I've finally done it." It was Lu Juanwu laughing heartily. With an abundance of resources, he had, after a month and a half of training, finally increased his spiritual strength enough to attempt opening his acupoints. "Dean, how come you were so quick?" Song Yuan said painfully, "I still can't feel a thing. I'm the only one in the institute who can't work on the acupoints, damn it." With a smile, Lu Juanwu comforted her, "I know you're anxious, but hold your horses, young lady, patience is vital. I'll apply for more resources for you now, ensuring you'll be able to work on the acupoints soon." Ever since Shen Qinghan had figured out how to work on the acupoints, the institute's budget had skyrocketed. Many forces that had previously been skeptical about the pure-blood human path started to invest heavily in Tianren Pavilion. All kinds of rare exotic fruits, miraculous pills, and rare exotic beast meats were sent ceaselessly, all to help the 4 in Tianren Pavilion to open their acupoints and evolve into high-level creatures as fast as possible. Thanks to this, Lu Juanwu, whose spiritual strength had never been particularly outstanding, had been boosted from an ordinary 5th order to an ordinary 9th order, with the help of various spiritual treasures. Increasing spiritual strength is said to be difficult. But it's actually feasible in a short period if enough resources are available. Of course, there had to be value deemed worth the investment. If it weren't for Shen Qinghan's breakthrough method, no one would have been willing to pour such vast resources into the Pure Human Research Institute. While Lu Juanwu and Song Yuan were talking, Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan, who had just finished working on his acupoints and were resting, sat on the sofa in front using their smartphones. The former was browsing news on the smartphone, keeping up with recent developments, while the latter rested her feet on the former's thighs, leaning back on the sofa watching an ancient palace drama. "Lin Zi, warm up my feet." Shen Qinghan looked up at Lin Zikin, shook her fair feet, and spoke in a tone that resembled a high and mighty empress. Lin Zikin didn't say a word, but placed his hands on her feet and began to emit blood qi power to warm them. This was not a one-sided indulgence but a reciprocal display of affection. After all, back at the dorm, Shen Qinghan often pampered him without fail, serving him comfortably morning, noon, and night, while also calling him daddy, which immensely satisfied him both physically and mentally. Switch to the other foot. Feeling that her right foot was warm enough, Shen Qinghan shook her left foot, gesturing for Lin Zikin to warm that foot too. Lin Zikin again wordlessly placed his hand on Shen Qinghan's left foot, activating his blood qi power to meet her every need. While warming Shen Qinghan's feet, Lin Zikin's eyes were glued to the phone screen, viewing the trending news from recent times. He read through hundreds of news articles, among which as many as 7 were related to pure-blood humans. Unlike 6 months ago, the current news about pure-blood humans was all positive. They all said that the pure-blood human path was worth investing in, trustworthy, and encouraged geniuses to give it a try. The reason for such a significant shift in the wind was because a video of Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan challenging the student council had been made public. Having seen the strength of pure-blood humans, everyone changed their previous thoughts and reassessed and reviewed the pure-blood human path. Moreover, the authorities were deliberately promoting the pure-blood human path, arranging for many news outlets to report positively on it and steering it in a favorable direction. With such a favorable wind for the pure-blood human path now, by the time July's recruitment rolls around, Tianren Pavilion can probably attract a lot of geniuses. Recruiting 100 shouldn't be a problem. By then, Han Han and I should be heading down to the origin land. Lin Zikin thought to himself while looking at the news. More than 10 days later. Still in the research institute. Song Yuan sat quietly on a yoga mat, trying to use her spiritual power to strike at her acupoints. Suddenly, she opened her light blue eyes and exclaimed excitedly. I did it, I did it. Dean, I did it too. Almost 2 months have passed, and I finally managed to use my spiritual power to strike at my acupoints. I know, why are you shouting so loudly? You're going to bring the institute down. Lu Chuanwu said irritably. Song Yuan, with a broad smile, replied, let it collapse then, we're not short on funds anyway. If it collapses, it's the perfect opportunity to build a new one. I've had enough of this dilapidated and old research environment. Lu Chuanwu felt weary. You were so frugal before, and now that you have money, you start squandering it. Song Yuan was unbothered. It's different now. I was frugal because I was poor before, now that we're not poor anymore, why should we still deprive ourselves? Lu Chuanwu shook his head. The spending mentality of young people nowadays is just not right. Song Yuan pretended not to hear. Up front. Shen Qinghan watched the two of them and smilingly said to Lin Zikin beside her, look at the dean and sister Yuan, they're just like father and daughter. Lin Zikin nodded, they do look a bit like that. Shen Qinghan leaned close and whispered into Lin Zikin's ear, Daddy, what about us? Do we look like father and daughter? Lin Zikin felt a ticklish sensation, steadied his spirit, and retorted, I can't call you little dirty girl anymore, I should call you little saucy instead. I'm not saucy, this is called being charming, Shen Qinghan pouted, correcting him with her cherry lips. Lin Zikin was just about to say something. Suddenly, he sensed a presence both familiar and strange rushing towards the institute. The familiar part was that the person was Ma Ziwei. The strange part was that Ma Ziwei's aura had changed from before, no longer having the scent of shadow nightcats, just a human scent. About half a minute later, Ma Ziwei entered the institute. Lin Zikin immediately looked at her and noticed she appeared very weak, her face pale and devoid of color, as if she had just recovered from a serious illness. Soon, the others also noticed Ma Ziwei. Among them, Lu Chuanwu, somewhat puzzled, said, Wai Wei, what brings you here? This address carried a tone of affection. Lu Chuanwu had been at Shanghai University for decades and had virtually watched Ma Ziwei grow up, almost considering her as a niece. As for the poor relationship with Ma Zhenhe, that was an adult's affair and had nothing to do with the child. Facing Lu Chuanwu's puzzled tone, Ma Ziwei straightforwardly announced, Uncle Lu, I want to join Tianren Pavilion and follow the pure-blood human path. Ah! Lu Chuanwu was initially stunned, finding it quite sudden, but after a moment, he reacted and asked, Does your dad know about this? Ma Ziwei, my dad knows, he helped me remove the exotic beast gene from my body. Hearing this response, Lu Chuanwu couldn't help but laugh inwardly, Ma Zhenhe, oh Ma Zhenhe, you've been opposing me every day, and now you actually let your daughter join Tianren Pavilion, you've completely lost now. Then, he said smilingly to Ma Ziwei, well, if your dad agrees for you to join, then from today onwards, you are a member of Tianren Pavilion. P.S. Begging bowl out, seeking monthly and recommendation tickets.